Hey now, it's Sharon and I'm back to share in another video. And if you're new to the channel, I'm a retired police officer, 20 years, and I'm sharing some of my policing experiences, some of them negative, and how it helped me realize my identity in Christ. And by sharing, I hope this helps someone. And to get started, remember I talked about watchers and being watched and being a watcher and the perspectives some people may hold, whether it be punitive perspective or lens or a grace-giving perspective or lens. And I also talked about being watched as an officer and watching as an officer. And being a watcher and being watched are roles. So roles are socially acceptable forms. I'm going to read this. Socially acceptable forms of behavior within a given context. People learn to act in their roles through communication with others. In the case of officers, we learn from each other. Officers learn from each other all the time. And the one thing I want you to remember is, as an officer, when we're training and communicating with one another, and we're training for the role of police officer, as individuals, we bring with us past experiences, expectations, whether they're negative or positive. We're individuals carrying this with us into the role of police officer. Policing, crime fighter is viewed as the main role of a police officer. But research suggests that crime fighting, violent crime, actual violent crime, is less than 1% of an officer's entire year. Less than 1%. The FBI crime statistics, look into that, and see how many crimes are reported for the year, how many officers are working that year, if you will, or hired. I should say working that year. And if crime was dispersed evenly throughout the United States, it's less than 1% of each officer's year where they handle violent crime, if you will. The other things that they handle are calls for service, basically quality of life things of that nature. And I wanted to share this little bit also. The role of crime fighter puts that big S on your chest, and it made me think about the other story I shared about my T-shirt and how I view T-shirts differently now. And putting the O positive on my T-shirt, under my uniform, under my vest, under my uniform. And I used to see officers with that big Superman S, Hope, Cal, and they would have those type of T-shirts on under their uniform. And I'm not knocking it. I'm just showing you a perspective in how we here in the U.S. look at crime fighting as the main job of a police officer. But research says that's not our main job. And if you really think about it, as an officer, on your day-to-day, you may never handle a violent crime for a whole week. And then there are other times where you may get one or two. And this is outside of a specialized unit, because I belong to a specialized unit. And we focused on, drugs and guns and things like that. So we had more encounters. But as a regular police officer, if you really think about it, because I've thought about it in my career, I was handling all different kinds of calls. And violent crime, every now and again, yeah, every now and again. And when I mention the FBI crime statistics, please understand, that is not measuring propensity. I know I'm going off to the left, but it's not measuring propensity. All it's doing is giving you a gauge or some data on who's calling and what they're calling about when they call the police. It's not a measure of propensity. I can't say that enough. People make that mistake all the time. Getting back to the role of crime fighter. In my early policing career, driving or sometimes on a foot beat, the perspective was crime fighter, and I held that perspective. And most likely, 90% of the time, it was punitive. I would roll up, somebody going to jail. This is what I'm thinking. Somebody's going to jail. But early on, I realized that a lot of times, throughout the day, my calls could be, I could play the role of a police officer, crime fighter. The next call might be manager. The next call might be therapist. The next call might be coach. The next call might be referee. The next call might be EMS. The next call might be in the wind. We don't even know why we're there. But yeah, as in the role of policing, I noticed that a lot of officers, to include myself, we held that perspective, that punitive crime fighting perspective, and it didn't need to be so. An example: brother and sister fighting, their twins, and they're fighting about uh, something about college. And I get there, and once you figure it, this thing is safe, mind you, I'm talking about after all of that, there's no furniture turned over, they're just arguing. Mom got scared. I turn it to the counselor, and I turn it to the coach, and we have a discussion. Now, I took the punitive lens off, and I put on the service lens. Remember, protect and serve? It was coined by LAPD back in, I forgot when. Protect and serve. That service perspective, I changed the lens. And now I'm listening to both sides. They both had good points. And then they agreed to disagree. But I didn't say, okay, you guys keep arguing, somebody going to jail. What for? There's a thing called discretion that we were taught, but that's a whole nother case. I'm not even going to talk about it here. But again, as a referee and a counselor, officers wear so many different hats. I think sometimes we forget to change the lens. And the lens should be of service. A lot of times service is viewed as a weakness, but it's actually a strength. Remember the other example in the video, POP, pissing off the police? And the traffic stop, and the lady is pissing off the officer, so now he goes or she goes, and I've done it, I have to admit it, I've done it. I've stopped for one ticket, but since they're giving me a hard time and talking all this junk, I see, okay, tires are bald, da-da-da-da-da, write them 2 or 3 tickets, pissing off the police. Now, reverse that. I do the traffic stop, they're pissed off, okay, whatever. I write the 1 ticket and I send them on their way. That's service and that's strength, because I refrain from, I guess, taking it personal. They're mad at the uniform. They don't know me personally. They don't know Sharon. They just know the uniform, and I stop them en route to wherever because of this violation. Strength and service, not strength and weakness. It reminds me of another thing. A lot of officers, we get that uniform on, we're looking good, everything is ironed, and you'll see some of those officers sew their arms to make their biceps look bigger. That crime fighting, bravado, I guess, but that's okay too. As long as they change the lens, when everything is safe, it does not have to be punitive. And then the lens that you change to, remember what I talked about, as individuals, we come with our own expectations and biases. And then in the role of police officer, all you're doing is training that individual that may have the negative biases. So that needs to be addressed in policing. But again, the message that I want to stress is, as officers, once you get there and you have to change that hat from crime fighter to whatever, it automatically goes to a service lens. Stay safe. And remember, you don't necessarily have to go through a thing to learn from it. Click like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll know the next time we upload a video. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.